LCSC students of historical research and method. Professor Eric Martin here, and welcome to week 3. This video is primarily for the online students to just kind of help them figure out what's going on. However, some of y'all face to face, maybe it's useful. So we'll see. So I want to do a little bit of a review of what we did last week, and I want to set up what y'all are doing this week. And let me move some things around. Now, not even going to reshoot this stuff. I'm just going to keep moving. View as student. That's what I wanted anyway. Okay. So let's go into the modules. And let's just start with week 2 so I can remember what we talked about. And the general discussion that we had was going over the material on what is history. That's the video in the week 1 module. Keeping historical interpretation in mind and really focusing on the last part of that talk, which some of y'all have seen before. Some of you have seen it several times. I give it all the time. It's important. Thinking about types of history, thinking about different ways to organize history, and thinking about history as data. So those last 3 slides might be worth going to and you thinking a little bit about, because that's really what we're doing here. And then in our particular case, right, for historical method, for historiography, the mission is secondary sources. That's our data, working with historical interpretation. That is your North Star. When in doubt, historical interpretation is what you're looking for. And one of the things in terms of your projects that we discuss quite a bit in class and that some of y'all online might struggle a little bit with is the very different nature of the project, where you're looking at how different events, pick your event, pick your process, pick your person, pick your thing, have been interpreted differently by historians from different schools of thought, from different time periods, whatever. For this project, it is going to be very important that you know who your authors are. And I don't just mean their names. You're going to need to do a little bit of a background check. And Professor Google is very easy to use for that kind of thing. You want academic historians, PhD from University of Idaho, whatever. It doesn't mean that they're the only people that are legitimate in terms of the topic. It means that that's an easy filter for people, because you're looking for folks who use historical method. So if you are spending your time reading a book, a very good book perhaps, by an economist or a sociologist on your topic, you might not find the historical method that you're looking for, right? So that's sort of, you want to keep that in mind. And most of the time, historians will tell you this stuff in the introduction. This is who I am, this is the style I use, right? So we talked a lot about that. And then we talked a lot about the interpretations of American history. And you guys online did a decent job, at least so far. I'm shooting this on Wednesday, talking about that document. But the point of that document was not to make you an expert on all that or to overwhelm you with it. It was to give you a look at how different schools of thought have emerged throughout the 20th century in American history, why they've emerged, what we're looking at, now. I said the 21st, the 20th. What we're looking at now in the 21st century with different schools of historical thought, and how you can attempt to recognize a cultural approach to the Great Depression versus an economic approach versus a political approach. And then you could write, well, in order to study the Great Depression, here are these three different ways it's been written up. One of them coming from the point of view of culture, one from the point of view of, economics, and one from the point of view of political policy. That's three very different ways of doing history. And so that's what we're working with here, right? You're looking at the different ways your topic has been written up. If your topic has not been written up very well, it might not be a good project for this class. This is a great project for being a little bigger than you normally are for a history project. All right. So that's the big thing we did last week. This week, you're just focusing on doing your projects. You've got a formal research proposal due week 4. I guess the next video I'll talk a little bit about that, but that's sort of where all this is going. And we're reading the first 2 chapters of the Gaddis book and chapters 3 and 4 of the Turabian book. So I'm not gonna do this every week, but for right now I am. For you online folks, you're required to participate, and I've changed things up just a little bit. Lauren, give us the breakdown in chapter 2. You've turned in the learning through discussion outline of the stuff. Just kind of give us a rundown of what's happening in the book. Barbara and Emmeline and others, and in the future, if I'm trying to recycle this video, we'll put different names in there, I guess. Participate. But Lauren, you're in charge of Gaddis chapter 2. Barbara, you're in charge of Gaddis chapter 1. We should also focus on the preface a little bit. Why do you write the book? And then finally, I can't really get this one up high enough, but one of y'all talked about really getting a different view of this. It was like a research project therapist. I love the analogy. So, as you read chapter 3 on finding useful sources, as you read chapter 4 on engaging your sources, how did the research project therapist speak to you concerning your particular project? So you guys talk about that a little bit. Speaking of particular projects, look what I did. This is actually for everybody, but I'll talk to them in class about it later. You can access this through the week 3 module, or you can just go to the discussions. Research projects. It seems like we ought to just have a set of threads here that are dedicated to each of your research projects. So I want you to go in here, hit reply, put your name in, a, kind of a temporary title, and then kind of describe your project, describe the books. Use this as a place to tell other people what you're doing, and then we'll see if we can get some feedback. And then your ideas are going to change, and you'll be able to go back through this and change it up. Well, this is what I was thinking then, this is what I'm thinking now. Let's do that. This might be a good way for the online folks to have discussion about what's going on, and it might be a good way for the folks that are in class, another format just to get your ideas out there and think about it. All And let me show you something that's not ready yet, which is next week. But really what I'm looking at is the draft proposal assignment. You guys probably can't see much of this. Oh, good. Well, no wonder it's not linked up. The draft proposal due next week. I'll get you some more guidelines on it, okay? But the whole deal with the draft proposal for next week, this week, tomorrow, you guys are supposed to turn in preliminary proposals. Tomorrow, in the sense of when I'm shooting the film. Week 2, you're turning in preliminary proposals. Week 4, you're just going to keep fleshing them out. So here's what I want you to think about with your proposals. A lot of people underestimate the role of a proposal in a research project. And it's really important for you to think about your proposal, your annotated bibliography, as a roadmap. I knew I had this in here somewhere. The point of the proposal, demonstrate you've got a topic and it's doable. You've got historical material, you have secondary sources to work with. It should show me that you've done some level of legwork to get the essay together. You're going to have something like a half-page statement that explaining what you propose to study and why it's of interest to you or anybody else. It should have some kind of preliminary breakdown of the schools of thought. And it should have something like 12 sources. Lots of times these sources get pulled out of thin air. I just mean like 12. All right, that seems about right. And they should be annotated. And I'm going to show you what an annotation means in a minute. You should have at least one article from a journal, a peer-reviewed journal. This one actually says 3 articles. If you can find stuff in the American Historical Review, Journal of American History, or Journal of World History, those are money journals. All right, so I want you to spend a little time looking for stuff. At least 3 books. My experience is most of y'all are going to have mostly books. That's mostly where this stuff is going to come from. All right, let me show you what an annotation is. If you drop all the way down to the bottom of our module page to this research or resource warehouse, annotated bibliographies, click on that sucker. And there's one by a former student, and there's one by me. Let's just see what. So, she's got a paragraph here describing her organization of the bibliography. This is focused on African Pan-Africanism. And then she's got a little breakdown of each of the books. Robert Collins was a professor of African history at the University of California. He compiled this collection to use for classes on African history. It covers decolonization, etc. I'm going to particularly use the article by Zolberg. Professor of United States Foreign Policy. The book discusses the connection of Cuban and African nationalist movements. You guys get the idea. Okay? And so really what you're doing with this is you are doing the recon on your books. And now it doesn't mean you read the book. It means you read the introduction. So this is one I wrote. I don't expect yours to be as detailed as this, okay? It's longer than what I expect from you. And it covers some level of primary sources. But my point is, it gives you preliminary ideas about your book. And through doing this, you're essentially establishing your roadmap for your paper. This is the book. This is what I think I'm going to find in the book. I'm going to go to it. Sometimes the annotation is something to the effect of, I've ordered this book from Interlibrary Loan. I haven't received it yet, but in the other stuff I've read, everybody refers to it. I'm expecting big things, right? So to go back to before I got distracted showing you all that, when I say, folks underestimate the role of the proposal, your proposal is like your map, and you're laying out the map for your project. And these are the books. These are kind of the different schools of thought I have the books laid out into. I've got more here than I really need, because I know a few of them aren't going to work. And you just move forward that way and just kind of see what starts to work. And then when in doubt, you have this proposal to go back to. Well, here are these other books I need to be working on. Again, putting the proposal together. You are going to be spending time in the library reading introductions and getting a sense if the book is going to work. You are not expected to have read all these books for the proposal. Okay, so that should more or less get us through week 3 and set up for week 4. I'm going to call it good here. As always, whether you're an online student or a in-person student, drop by my office hours if you've got questions. Use the discussion boards. You guys can answer each other's questions, maybe faster than you can get a hold of me. Although I'd like to think I'm not that difficult to get hold of. I'm on Zoom office hours all the time. And I'm in the office Tuesdays and Thursdays, 10:30 to 11:30. And a lot of Wednesday mornings. It depends on whether I have meetings, and it depends on whether I've got other reasons to be down on Mondays and Fridays. So anyway, Tuesdays and Thursdays, I'm definitely in the office. Wednesdays, I'm there a lot, and if you try to set something up with me. Otherwise, Zoom's cool with me. And I think that's everything I have for you. Let me know if you have any questions, and enjoy your historical studies.